let's talk about sex, kids. That is our topic today. That is our topic today. We are talking about the birds and the bees with 3 dudes that have talked about this before, and it always turns into a disaster. So let's see how it goes. Sexual activity. Let's talk about it.
Sexual activity. I don't even know where to start.
You're the one that wrote this, so you should start.
Well, we're talking about as Christians.
Well, sure.
Sexual activity.
Lead us to the deep waters, Shawn.
Everything's sexual because with males and females, or males and males and females, whatever it is, there's a sexuality that you take a little kindergartners when they see a cute girl or a cute boy, there's this something that's going on. It's the burgeoning of sexuality. It might not be sex the way we think of it, but there's always something going on with us chemically relative to sex.
There's attraction.
There's attractions, and we're developing things that we like and things that are we're against, that we don't like you said earlier in a show earlier this afternoon. When you look at a certain part of a male's anatomy, you are not aroused.
That's not exactly how I said it, but okay.
No, I know. That's not what you said. But so there's things that we like and there's things that we dislike. And then as we inject ourselves with hormones, testosterone and estrogen and all that stuff, then suddenly, like at 12, we start wanting to get engaged with all of that. And people freak out over that thing. They freak out over sex and sexual feelings. So first of all, one of the questions I want to ask God is, why did you give sexual feelings to 11-year-olds?
Yeah.
Why? Why did you, did he do it, or do you think it's the result of the fall?
I think it was the result of evolution.
Ooh.
Blur that out. I don't want to scare the Christians around here.
You think it's an evolutionary process?
Yeah, I think it's a total process of natural selection. We are designed to make babies.
Procreate.
And we go off of there. Now within biblical terms, we would say that the fall causes us to have unnatural sex, or sex outside of what God intended it to be. And that's all I have to say.
What did God intend sex to be?
Between a male and a female, and a loving marriage, Shawn.
Beautiful.
Yeah, beautiful.
It's such a quagmire. I really can't begin to speak to it. So what about the 11 and 12-year-old? You know, it's just like when I was way back in junior high, there was a girl, her name was Sherry Ross.
You're really going to name
She got boobs when she was 9. When she was 9. By the time she was 12, she was the whore of the school. Because those things just got in her way. Every 12-year-old didn't know what to do with them except for go after them. And she became so abused by the time she was 12. I was thinking, God, why did poor Sherry Ross get these boobs? And then every guy's giving her attention. She doesn't know why they're giving her attention. We all knew why she was getting it. And then we have this destiny that unfolds for us with sex, and it's such a quagmire. How do we address it as Christians?
Well, as Christians, all we can do is, is work through it. It's a challenge for kids and for adults, for everyone, really. And
what's the challenge?
The challenge is not giving into our body, our flesh.
Outside of marriage.
Outside of marriage, right.
Outside of marriage. Not to give, do you agree with that? That the challenge is not to give in to our fleshly desires outside of marriage?
Because if you do, you end up with all kinds of problems.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know that.
Okay, so how about let's work backward before we get into the couple thing. Let's work the spanky. So wanky, choking the dolphin, all the other words.
Masturbation, is that what you're talking about?
Flippy floppy,
I figured it out after the last
the flippy
phrase.
floppy chicken choking thing that comes with boys usually first and girls more and more today.
I have a lot of names for that, and none of those were even close to what I was going for.
Wait. When he said the dolphin one, I'm like, oh, I get what you're saying now, but I didn't get it.
How does that do it?
Okay,
Whatever.
you guys
So
would
continue.
understand it better if I said squeezing the toothpick. All right. We're three
so
guys.
done, man.
We can
I'm
say
so
this
done.
with each other.
I'm so done.
Okay, so, but what do? You got a boy. You know, boys, they got the thing. It's like a stick shift. They can't do anything but grab that thing. We live by that thing. And then when we're 12, suddenly it provides us with a pleasure. Like what the heck just happened to me? I think my brains just came out in the lower part of my body. You freak out. No one tells you about it. So what do we do with it? And it's like the plague of human race. Masturbation, the plague. What do we do with it? Is it okay? Is it not okay?
Oh my
Is
gosh.
it evil? Is it bad? My wife just stuck her tongue out at me. I don't know what that means.
Well,
but
Well, first of all, I mean, this is probably 2 steps farther than the beginning, but what's better, to be doing that or to be bringing someone else into it?
right.
You know,
Is it all bad, or is it?
I think there's different levels to to things.
I know a guy, a grown man, who says, I've been faithful to my wife my whole life. He goes, you know how? He says, I wank it. He doesn't say that. He says, I wank it every time I'm tempted. And I'm like,
Yeah, that's one way to do it.
okay, that's one way, but is that controlling it? Is that letting God and the Spirit work, or is that a fleshly response to a fleshly?
That's a cheat code.
It's a cheat. It's a cheat.
Yeah.
What do we think? What do we think? Let's just stay on this one to start, the masturbation one.
Like
it's
all
ubiquitous.
Things, like all things, it can be taken too far,
Well,
I would say.
Okay.
That's what I would say. I mean, there's times where that's better than going out and
It's a
getting
lesser
a
of two
prostitute
evils.
or something. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
It's a-
Well, here's my only thing. It requires lust,
Okay.
and that's the issue.
It requires lust.
Yep, that's the issue right there.
But what is worse, that? or-
I'm not talking about what's worse or what's better. I'm just saying in terms of the
Okay.
sinful
It
aspect.
requires. Let me ask you: isn't it the result of lust?
Yes.
It's the result
Well,
of lust, right?
If you're a guy, I don't know. You could see that going the other way.
Because what you do is you say, I want to find lust in order so I can do that.
I don't know what comes first, the
Chicken.
the feeling or the thoughts. I mean,
don't know.
they kind of come at the
It
same
could
time.
be both.
How is God viewing this with all of his sons, at least, man, girls too, man, now. They're all yanking it. And they're supposed to love him and not be lustful and not be of the flesh.
Sure.
But they're all doing it.
Well, the problems arise when people in the church start making rules, and then you get an unhealthy obsession with not doing it, but then your flesh wants you to do it, and then
Yeah.
you end up having these weird things. That's how weird stuff gets involved later on, is by a lot of these rules. So it's tricky, but I think Christians have been approaching it wrong forever.
Oh,
So
yeah.
how would you guys suggest we approach it?
It's hard to.
It
Say.
is.
I had a
It's hard.
13-year-old come up to me on this stage, and his dad was with him. His dad said, I just want him to talk to you. And he said, yeah, I'm doing that. That's how, he couldn't even say what he was doing. You know, he's embarrassed. And his dad said, what do you say? So what would you say?
Approaching it, getting the shame out of it, and talking honestly and openly, first of all, is the key to everything. And
Yeah.
because the second you're all embarrassed and like, ooh, oh, the person that the kid's coming to can't even talk about it, how are they going to figure out their own stuff?
yeah.
So
They're not.
they're not. They're not. They're in the most vulnerable position ever,
Right.
especially at that time. My goodness.
Yeah, they're
So-
freaking out.
Yeah, freaking out. So you need to remove the mystery and all the craziness away from it and just say, here's what it is.
Yeah.
And you got to approach it from the loving side versus the condemnation side, which a lot of us Christians have
Because
been doing for
condemnation
years.
doesn't help. It just makes it worse.
It does
way
not
worse.
help
It
at
just
all.
makes people embarrassed, and it keeps them enclosed and keeps them
Yes.
away from dealing with whatever
Because
the problems they have.
the key is knowledge and reasonable arguments to where somebody could choose not to do something because they want to, like as a Christian, right? You want to not give into your flesh so much with everything, right? With getting angry at the guy that cuts you off, with it, and
that's
with
my bad.
with masturbation, that's a real tough one because that's like physiological crazy hormones that are coursing through your body that's causing the desire to do that. So that's a really hard one to to get away from. But if you're practicing choosing love and God over your flesh in every aspect of your life, that comes into that as well. Mm-hmm. So not focusing on, oh, you're doing that now or you're failing now. It's, okay, what should we do? What are some reasons why maybe this would be better to not do it? Or is it causing you to fail in your love or your belief for God, right? Because he wants us to love him. He wants us to give him all the emotions and call on him to help us with stuff. So what we can focus on him when we're feeling tempted to go to the lizard brain part of us, and
the
have sex.
Lizard brain. Really
Yeah.
good. The
That's
reptilian brain.
how I would work through it. But it's mainly just having open communication and honesty and getting rid of the shame, the guilt, because man, that's everywhere.
So how
in
do you
religion.
get rid of the shame and guilt? You explain that it's
Everyone does it.
And,
Most people.
And of 100 men, the 99 have done it, and the one who hasn't, it's probably lying.
Yes, that's exactly right.
So therefore, it's a very natural thing for human beings to do.
Yes, and you can explain why we want to do it, because it's it's sex. It's the hormones going through your body. They're making you feel this way, whatever.
And people hate this now. I guess in a woke world, I guess I'm really a patriarch now, but I don't think, or maybe girls do understand how boys and males see the world. We see it. We see girls who reveal themselves in a completely different way than maybe they think. They don't.
They don't understand.
They don't understand.
I don't care whoever's watching. I don't care what you say. There's a really funny Chris D'Elia bit. He's like, look, all guys want to have sex way more than ladies. Way more than ladies. Yeah. He's like, you want to know how I know? All right, you right there. Yeah, you in the audience. Yeah, you go have sex with her. And he's like, yeah, and he's looking around like, who is it? And the lady's like, oh, what? Yeah. And they won't do it. So it's just, there is a clear difference.
Biological.
Yeah.
It's us. It's males.
That's not to say women don't want to have sex. Of course they do. But it's different. Mm-hmm. It's different.
Yeah.
It just is.
It is different. And it just has to do with the biological aspect in that sense.
Yes.
So I told the kid a couple things. I said, I want you to just realize that is something that people do, males and females. But here's the question. I said, pretend that you have a mongoose, and I did say a mongoose, and that you love it, you got it, you love that mongoose at certain times of your life. But if you take that mongoose with you to school, it's going to run all over the place. You're going to have to control it. If you take the mongoose to a movie, you're going to be spending the time trying to fix the mongoose in the movie. Everywhere you go, the mongoose is going to be out to cause hell. Would you like the mongoose then? No. So I said, the thing is, you got to learn to control the mongoose. You want to, if the mongoose needs to be fed, then sometimes you're going to feed the mongoose. Just get over it. That's not you, it's your flesh. But keep the thing caged. And remember, mongooses hate yellow light. So don't expose the mongoose to yellow light. Every time the mongoose sees yellow light, it's going to go apeshit. Mm-hmm. So just keep the mongoose, that's pornography, from yellow light. And he's like, yeah, I think I get it. We saw him about 6 months later. He was totally, okay, I get it. And it's about having the power, for you to have the power over your own life. Mm-hmm. Because you're just going to lay in bed and just do that all day long if you don't. And that's what some
kids
psychos
these days,
do.
Man, especially with COVID, everybody's been it's been bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been bad for kids.
But does God know it? Did he know it? Of course he knows it.
Of course.
Strangely enough, mongoose are very are classic predators of cobras and snakes. So they can take out black mambas like you wouldn't believe. So it's kind of funny.
Only
you
from
use
Steve.
mongoose.
Only from Steve.
I think it's mongooses, right?
Gosh.
Maybe it's mongooses, but I think it's mongoose.
Okay, now how about the sex itself? We've just talked about masturbation, and all of us have a pretty reasonable, we're Christians, we love the Lord, but we realize it happens, okay? So males and females in this day and age, that's happened. Mm-hmm. It's our flesh, it's not what's in us, okay? All right, now what about the engaging with others? Opposite sex. Is it sex to kiss?
No.
It's not sex to kiss.
Or else I would have had sex already.
All right. Is it sex to remove one's clothing and touch each other, touch each other. Is that sex?
It's the way you describe things, Shawn.
Take off the clothes and touch. Is that sex?
Well, it can be sex with the clothes, kind of, in a way. So,
okay, can be.
So, I don't know.
sex
Mormons do all kinds of wild stuff with this here.
They really do.
They've got some crazy practices, let
Yeah.
me tell you. But Christians do too, but just not to that extent, I think.
Well, sex is a specific act, though.
Is it intercourse? Is that all that sex is?
Sex is.
I don't think so.
You know what? It's the.
You can't
It's a
define
hot
it, but
dog
you know it
meaning
when you
the
see-
hot dog
No,
bun. I'll describe it that
that's
way.
not what we want to do.
So it's not sex if the hot dog meets a pair of lips.
Here's what I'll call it. I'll call it stimulating another body with your body in. Yes, that's what I'd say.
Stimulating another body with your body.
I'm using that because that's about as scientific as you can get with it.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Because would lap dances be sex? That's a
Well,
woman stimulating?
Stimulating. I mean, you could argue it. I think you could argue it. Otherwise,
I disagree.
it's only.
He disagrees.
Well,
Yeah, I disagree.
you're gonna have to draw these lines then somewhere because otherwise it's just.
Then again,
you know.
we're talking
Sex.
specifically about sex, which is, I mean, that's sex, right? So in discussing that, it's supposed to be.
I think we
between-
need to define what sex is before we can continue.
Okay.
Stimulating reproductive organs.
Stimulating
Of one another.
reproductive organs of one another.
Yeah,
Okay,
purposefully.
I
or
can say
physically.
that. I can
we'll
say that.
You would agree with that?
I'll agree with that.
All right.
That's what it is.
I was involved with a sexual act where I was stimulating the sexual parts of
Reproductive-
another person.
Sure.
All
Okay.
right. And then where's the danger in doing that if children can't be created from the stimulation? Does God get mad if you
Are
stimulate?
you talking specifically about the sin? Because
No, does God get mad at you for stimulating another woman's body if you don't have intercourse to create a child?
well, God doesn't get mad at people anymore because Christ paid for the sins of the world. You play this trick on me, Shawn. I'm never falling for it.
Okay, so
Yeah.
does he disappoint? Does he want you as his child to be engaged with another person to stimulate them, and you're not committed to them through marriage?
I think it depends on the circumstances. It really does. I would say the responsible decision, the way I know that the Bible describes it, is in marriage, right? But
That's tricky because the destructive parts of it are, I think,
yeah.
What are
How
the
is it-
destructive parts of a man and a woman getting together who aren't married and stimulating each other sexually?
right. Well, it could be just the lack of pair bonding in the end. You know, you end up doing that with a lot of other people. And
that would
when
be the
we
problem.
and this goes into how women and men view sex, but
Yeah.
I think it destroys women a whole heck of a lot more than dudes
Mm-hmm.
because it's more of an emotional thing. And as much as some people might not like to admit it, I'm pretty sure that's accurate. And then they're opening up their heart to you or whatever in this way,
And you don't want their heart.
and you don't want
you just
their heart.
wanted their body.
Right.
Yeah.
And
that's the issue.
Yeah. I was having this conversation with my buddy Kyle, the guy I own the vape shop with, and we were saying how, like, man, that it just sucks because women want to have, we'll say men want to have sex with women, and they'll act emotionally available to get the sex, right?
Yeah.
With women. They'll give them all their emotions to have sex, and women will have sex to give them their emotions.
That's right. Mhm.
It's the exact opposite, worst
They say that
situation
women
ever.
use sex to gain intimacy, and men use intimacy to gain sex.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And
it's funny.
that's like this rule of the male-female world, but does it still live in the woke world? I mean, are we getting rid of that too? Does that not have any reality?
Well, they're going to find out one way or another that they've been doing it wrong for a while, and it's going to be destructive.
By the way, just to
unfortunately.
let you know, a book called Return to Modesty by Sheldon, his last name is Sheldon, is a fantastic book to consider because she polls like thousands of women through Cosmo and Vogue, and she asks them to talk about their sexual history. And like in the 90s, they all said, looking backward, I wish I would have waited.
Yep.
And these are not religious people. They all wished in the 90 percentile that they would have held back on that. So aren't we doing a favor in the name of Christ to be less greedy and selfish for our needs as Christians. So doesn't that play into being a Christian when
It plays into being loving.
yes,
People.
you will say, okay, I'm not going to do this even though I may want to.
Yeah, and this is the whole thing. People that aren't Christians can at least look at Christianity like this. Look, these rules will say that we have. Now we're talking about love and belief, but these things that we don't do or do, they're preventing destructive things that can happen to people and hurting people in the end. And that's, I mean, what, God's not going to give us arbitrary stuff to do, maybe for the Israelites and whatnot, but for us, I mean, it's pretty rational when you think about what we do or don't do as Christians.
Right. So
and it's for
taking
good
that
reason.
logic that we just shared with between two people and pull back now to the masturbation thing.
Okay.
Because where it's not going to hurt anybody else,
But it's
could
destructive.
hurt you.
Yes,
Yeah.
destructive for yourself.
Yeah, if you let that thing go, you could, and that's the way we teach them, that God doesn't want you to hurt yourself. And if you start to have relationships with
If
yourself,
it hurts yourself, you're doing it wrong. No, just kidding.
okay, so
Just kidding,
now
but
we're getting it.
Yeah,
One
yeah.
final thing I want to suggest, which is radical in the eyes of many, but you've heard it before, and that is the definition of marriage.
Oh, I've heard this.
Yeah,
from
is not this stupid paper and a pastor saying, blah, 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 blah. It is simply the sexual relation between a male and female.
Wait, what is that?
It's the sexual relation between them. And God does not hate that. He does not hate that. He hates the tearing apart.
Yeah.
Of course, that's huge, 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 huge. And think about it: when you're having sex with all these people, you're tearing apart from
Yeah.
tons and tons
That's
of people,
right.
and that's where the destruction gets caused.
Yeah, I've never done any study in the Bible on marriage, so but the whole idea makes sense, and I absolutely agree that the whole paper thing and the government telling you that you're married does not matter, right? And it was what I was about to get to is like, okay, is there a certain point in a relationship that's not officially married, but you have grown in intimacy for so many years now? Is it okay for them to have sex and not consider it a sin? Because if you love that person and you were to stay loyal to them, then who's to say that is wrong?
I would say that's their marriage.
Yeah.
The minute a couple decides, now here's the problem. People say, you never teach your kid that, because they'd say, I'm in love with her. We're in love. So they
Yeah,
consummate
yeah.
it, but then they break up
Yeah.
because they're too young. So you
Yeah,
teach,
but I said loyalty is key.
that's key. And if someone's
Yeah.
loyal, the paper is irrelevant.
Yeah.
Well, and there's been studies, and now it's probably kind of a cliche, with people being more sticky, and the more you stick to something, whatever, it gets less sticky, whatever, the more you tear it apart. But there's plenty of studies that have shown that, yeah, if you have people with one sexual partner are way more likely to stay married and not get divorced than those that have slept around before marriage. Then you see a lot of remarriages.
So there's wisdom in it.
Right.
Yeah. All right.
And that's even just from a non-Christian thing. That's not talking about Christians specifically. That's just in general.
Yeah.
So,
Anything else?
yeah.
We wrapped that up pretty quickly, actually.
Yes. But for those people watching, look, it's a problem, or everyone has that stuff going on in their head. So don't feel ashamed about
It's
it.
the human problem,
Yep.
and God knew it.
Yep.
He knew it.
And in and of itself, it's not a problem, but
Yeah,
it's
right.
what we do with it that
do with
causes
it.
Yeah.
problems.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another problem with it, is that if you focus on it as a problem, then kids get all freaked out, and then
Yeah, that
They
goes
get
same with
scared
all
of
the
the
stuff we're
wrath of
talking
God.
about.
Everything
Stop
else.
You get
Yeah.
that unhealthy relationship with it. It's bad.
okay, for next week, the final
turns.
topic. Steve is drawing it.
Do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do. All right, creation story.
Creation story.
All right.
All right.
We've touched on it a little bit, but this will be good.
Yeah.
We will see you here next time here on Cat
Out.